Hello, this is Cheryl Petersen at HealingScienceToday.com. Do you know anyone who practices energy healing or psychics? It can be called New Age practices, chakra-based healing, or talking with the dead. I would have to live in a bubble not to know someone. At first, I was suspicious of New Age practices, also referred to as New Thought or New Religious Movements, until I realized we only believe what we believe, but our actions show what we value. Do we value fame, personal piety, exploitive power, money, or do we value recovery, spirituality, honesty? I think of the Old Testament Bible story that has involved Samuel and Saul. The prophet Samuel was told by God to make Saul king. When king, Saul banned New Age practices as detestable abominations against God, punishable by death. It was King Saul's way of making people follow the laws set down by Moses. Time passed, and King Saul's actions, though, showed that he valued his own will more than God's will. He believed his will was God's will. Saul also valued the approval of the prophet Samuel and wanted to talk to him because problems were coming up. But Samuel had died. So Saul disguised himself and went to get help from a psychic at night to a medium of Endor, a woman who was cautious and aware. She said, "Surely you know what Saul has done. He has cut off the mediums and spiritists from the land. Why have you set a trap for my life to bring about my death?" But Saul promised not to rat her out. "Just please bring up Samuel." When the woman brought up and saw Samuel from a distance, she knew instantly that Saul was a liar, a pretender, the man in disguise. And she said as much. Again, Saul said, "I won't hurt you. Just keep bringing up Samuel." The woman of Endor did. The ghostly Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" Saul said, "I am in great distress, so I have called on you to tell me what to do." I interpret Samuel's response to Saul as saying, "Saul, you stopped obeying God when you told people that your will was God's will. And as I predicted when I was there, God will deliver the children from you. You will lose the kingdom, and it will be given to David." Now, I have no idea what went through Saul's head, but after the ghostly Samuel was gone, Saul apparently refused to eat and became a couch potato. The woman of Endor had to practically force feed him to get him to leave. But Saul did leave. He didn't repent, though. Saul died, and David was made king. I do not interpret this story as if New Agey stuff is bad or dangerous, but as a lesson to trust and value honesty instead of dishonesty when seeking guidance and healing. I cannot judge a person by their beliefs, and I cannot judge beliefs by a person. Which brings me to another Bible story, this one from the New Testament. At some point in his ministry, Jesus was reported to have been talking with Moses and Elijah. Moses had been dead for like 2,000 years, and Elijah for 1,000. So I have to ask here, was Jesus a medium, spiritualist, a psychic? Was Jesus tapping into the energy of Moses and Elijah? It sure looks like it. It sure sounds like it. But no one wrote what the conversation was about between Jesus, Moses, and Elijah. Here's my guess. Moses says to Jesus, I was divinely inspired. I wrote some stinking good rules, especially the eye for an eye rule, and you're changing it with something about loving our enemies? Elijah says, simmer down, Moses. Your laws were good and are still useful, but spiritual ideas unfold. I couldn't have defended the worship of Yahweh over that of Baal without new ideas, new ways of thinking and doing things. I certainly couldn't have resurrected the son of Zarephath's widow. Moses relents and says, yeah, that was nice. A widow without her son. It's a bummer. Jesus finally says, look, guys, this isn't about who is right or wrong or about what is nice or mean. It's about giving proof of the law of God, love. It's about valuing truth's discovery, recovery. It's about shared resurrection. We all can resurrect from dead beliefs that hold us stuck in despair or disparity. I can vouch for that, says a voice, loud and clear and melodious. No one can see you, woman of Endor, says Moses. Maybe not, but they can hear me, and they can know that the woman of Endor is proof of God's law in action. My belief in psychics was blown away, literally, when King Saul came to me. I listened to the prophet Samuel, and he was pretty disgusted to be treated as a spirit separate from God, the one Spirit. I discovered my own expression of God to act on divine inspiration, available to everyone. I stopped bringing up human spirits and started believing in one divine spirit, truth, as the only communicator. She did, adds Elijah. I've known the woman of Endor a long time. She was in heaven before me by means of her truthfulness. It happens. God gets to us, not by human rules or practices, but by the rule of transparency. The woman of Endor also values spiritual awareness and courage. Jesus says, but it's not easy. Remember, Moses? It wasn't easy for you to advance a nation to the worship of God in divine mind. It wasn't easy to let people stop making gods out of material objects and human-centric objectives and to value spiritual intelligence. Moses says, no, it wasn't easy. Yeah, I had nightmares about how stubborn and whiny the people were. And I got so angry, like the time when I broke the 10 Commandment tablets by throwing them on the ground after seeing people worshiping some stupid golden calf. Elijah says, yeah, but you showed how rules can be broken and rewritten, even better when valuing discovery, recovery, and making it practical to current human circumstances. The same spirit that moves you moves me, and laws improve. Jesus says, I think of that, Elijah. You were under the burden of bloodthirsty leaders and spiritual cowards, and yet you called on divine truth for a huge fire that came down from the heavens and burned the sacrificial meat offerings. You are bold and humble to show how humanity can sacrifice revered beliefs and self-righteousness instead of sacrificing animals. What you all did could not have been easy, and I am grateful. Please know, Elijah, Moses, and the woman of Endor, I love and respect you all. We are not here to diminish anyone's light, but to shine together. We can let the ever operative Christ Spirit keep appearing to us and everyone. I can, Soft, beautiful, sincere music comes from the woman of Endor. Moses says quietly, "Thanks for giving us credit, Jesus." Elijah says, "Yeah, it means a lot to us." The woman of Endor says, "Jesus, some people will call you wicked or a lawbreaker, or try to make you into a god or the god, even if it always proves futile." Jesus says, "You speak truthfully from experience, woman of Endor. I must value spiritual progress for everyone." Elijah said, "You don't have to do it, you know." Jesus nods and says, "I know." And he did it anyway. Now, the people who claimed to have witnessed this scene, sometimes referred to as the transfiguration, said that they saw bright light. No one knows what was said other than the disciple Peter saying to Jesus, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." But while he was speaking, a bright cloud covered them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." The children of truth value truthfulness. The children of love value loving kindness and lovability. The children of life value living discovery and recovery. Do not be afraid. God has you covered when seeking truth, when seeking guidance and healing. I will read from 21st Century Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, a modern version of Mary Baker Eddy's Science and Health, the 7th edition. Is it true that Christ is always reappearing? Are we believing and following the wise people of today when they emit the light which heralds truth's eternal dawn and describes its radiance? Bear in mind, people who adopt New Age techniques, mysticism, or hypnotism may be more spiritual than individuals who shun or avoid their practices. Therefore, Mary Baker Eddy's contest was not with those practitioners, but with false systems based on human mind's fantasy or fury misunderstood. Love humanity and continue to labor and to endure with one spirit.